Now, before we go ahead, you should have had a question by now. You never asked. My rule is, if you ask a question, I'll answer it. If you don't answer the question. If you don't ask the question, I ask the question. The answer is your responsibility. So what's the khabar? In terms of i'rab, what's the mubtada going to be? Marfu, mansub, majroor. And the khabar is going to be?
Or the mubtada can be either.
No. In terms of i'rab, the mubtada has to be what? Marfu. Khabar is also?
Marfu.
Fa'il is? Marfu. Maf'ul is?
Marfu.
No, maf'ul. Mansub. And the zarf? Mansub. Yep. Mubtada is marfu. Khabar is marfu. Yep. Fa'il is marfu. And then the rest, the maf'ul and the zarf is going to be mansub. So the question then arises, that what about in the law? Why is it not marfu? Is it inda? It's a khabar, isn't it? No?
No, but it follows it all. Because it's a verb, it follows the verb.
But it becomes a khabar as well. The question is that in Allah is what? Khabar. So why is not indullah?
Because it has much, because it's a verb, it has much the pattern.
Kind of, but let me give you an answer to that. To answer that question, let's have a look at i'rab again. Because I told you, we're doing a spiral method. We're learning basics, and as time evolves, we learn a bit more about i'rab. We learn a bit more about definite, indefinite. We learn a bit more about number, gender. We learn a bit more about jumla fi'liya, a bit more about fa'il, a bit more about the whole sentence. We're taking bits at a time. So now it's time to expand on the i'rab a bit. So I want to re-expand and revisit the i'rab. So what do we say about i'rab? Who can give me a brief rundown? What does i'rab mean?
The fatha, dhamma, and kasra.
Dhamma, fatha and kasra. So dhamma, what do you call it? Marfu'. For example, rajulun. If it can be mansub, if it has a what? Rajulan. And if it's kasra, it has a kasra, it will be called majroor. Yeah? That was simple. What about these words? I'rab is not only relate to it. What about this? Remember you asked a question about ulaika, hadha. You know you asked a question? What about these? Remember we said all nouns must have ding, meaning they have a definite, indefinite, i'rab, number and gender. Yeah? So for example, I told you all ism al-ishara are always ma'rifah. By nature, they can't be nakira. Correct? So we know that these are ma'rifah. What about the i'rab? Number, wahid tasniya jama'. Gender, these are all mudhakkar. Okay? But what about the i'rab?
I think you said on these ones, they're always fixed, doesn't matter what.
They're always fixed. But they still have to have the i'rab.
Their state changes, but...
Let me explain to you now. That's why I avoid that question then. I want to revisit it now.
Is it to do with the alif at the end and the noon?
No. Let me give you an example. Okay? Right. So, you have one set of words, which is majority of the words called mu'arab. So majority of the words are called mu'arab, meaning what? Those words which show the marfu, mansub, majroor. For example, the word rajul. When it's marfu, it becomes rajulun. When it's mansub, it becomes rajulan. And when it's majroor, it becomes rajulin. This is called what? Mu'arab. Normal words. Okay? They actually show the state. With a rafa, nasab and jar. Yeah? Make sense? Okay.
You know the mu'arab and i'rab, what's the difference between...
Nothing. I'rab is like explaining what is it? Marfu, mansub, and majroor. And mu'arab is that word which shows the i'rab physically. So a mu'arab is a word which has i'rab, meaning it has, all words have i'rab, but you can actually see the i'rab of it. As opposed to these are called mabani. Bana means to build a building. So basically it's like firm. What does it mean? It has an i'rab, but you can't see it. Okay? Yarhamukallah. Okay? Yeah? So a mabani is what? A mabani is a word which it has a state because all nouns must be marfu, mansub, and majroor. Correct? But these words don't have that, doesn't show. Hadha is always hadha. It's emotionless. You never get hadu, hadi, hadha. Hadha stays hadha. But it will still have an i'rab. Because if hadha is a fa'il, what state will it be in?
Marfu.
Marfu. What's the fa'il state? Marfu. So if hadha is a fa'il, let's say for example, I said, This boy went. ذهب هذا الولد. So هذا has to be what? It's a fa'il, so it has to be what state? Marfu state. But you can't see it, can you? So in these words, you would say, fi, this word هذا, if it's becoming a fa'il, you can't see it, so you don't call it marfu. Because you can't see the marfu, can you? If it's, for example, rajulun, you know it's what? Marfu. Rajulan is mansub. Rajulin is majrur. You can actually see this, that's what they call mu'rab. Now, hada, haula'i, you can't see whether it's marfu, mansub, majrur, can you? Because it always stays the same. Like an English word, the word like was a boy. Is boy subject or object? You don't know until you see the sentence. This is like this. All English words are mabni basically. So this word, you don't know if it's marfu or mansub or majrur until you see it in a sentence. When it does come in a sentence, what do you say then? You don't say it's marfu. You say what? Fi mahallir raf'i. What's the i'rab of this? Fi is what? Jar. Mahallir raf' is a majroor. And then mahalli is mudaf, raf'i is mudaf ilay. Mudaf ilayh is majroor. In the place, mahal means place. In Urdu we call mahal palace. In a place. So in the place of a rafa. Because it's not marfu. Can you see a rafa? Can you see a dhamma on this? Can you see any sign of change on this? But it is in a slot. When it comes as a mubtada, you will say fi mahalli raf. When it becomes a maf'ul, what state is the maf'ul going to be in? Mansub. So you will say the hadha is fi mahalli nasb. And if it becomes mudaf ilay, you will say fi mahallil jar. It's not majruka, it doesn't change. What do you say? Fi mahallil jar. So words that explicitly show their state, you call them what? What do you call them? Mu'rab. What do you call it? And if a word, an ism, not a word, an ism. If an ism is one of these words like hada, haula'i, hadihi, tilka, tanika, they don't change. So what are they? Mabni. But you still have an i'rab because all isms must have an i'rab. So what do you say? You don't say marfu, you say fi mahalli raf. It's in the place where the marfu should have been. So if, for example, the hada becomes mubtada, and somebody asks you, what's the ding of this? What's the definite? You say, but it's definite. What's the i'rab? You won't say marfu, what would you say? Fi mahalli raf. If it's maf'ul, you will say it's not mansub, say fi mahalli, it's in a slot, because obviously the slots, you have slots in it. Fa'il, fa'il, maf'ul. Fa'il is marfu, maf'ul is mansub, zarf is mansub. So you say it's in a slot. Mahal, slot. It's in a slot of a mansub position. You following? Yeah? So in the sense so far? So i'rab doesn't only apply where you can see it. I'rab also applies where you can't see it. Where you can see it, you call it mu'arab. Where you can't see it, you call it what do you call it? Mabani. So words that change are called mu'arab. Words that don't change are called mabani. They don't change, but they still have an i'rab because all isms must have an i'rab when in a sentence. Like this and hada. So hada will always stay hada, but it will come in the fi mahalli raf, fi mahalli nasb, and fi mahalli jar. Does that make sense? Yeah. Ready for one step further? One step further, the i'rab also, in certain scenarios, can even apply to like the zarf phrase. Like fil masjid, you will say, because it comes in a zarf position, what would you say? It will always be fi mahalli raf or fi mahalli nasb. Because the zarf becomes what? In Jumla Ismiya, it becomes mubtada. Sorry, not mubtada, it becomes khabar. So if the fil masjid becomes the khabar, you will say fi mahalli raf. And if it's the zarf in the Jumla Fi'liya, you call it fi mahallin, even though you can't see any change. Because fil masjid will always be fil masjid. So, inna Allah will always be what? Indallah. But what would you say? If somebody asks, what's the i'rab? What's the i'rab of this word, of this phrase? What would you say? No, you won't say marfu. Fi mahalli raf. It's not marfu. This is marfu because you can actually see the al-ilmu. You would read it al-ilmu. But this phrase, you would say this phrase is what? Fi mahalli rafa. And in this example, you would say this is also fi mahallin nasb. Even though inda is there, but this is in a slot of fi mahallin nasb. And in here, fil ard becomes what? It takes the space of a zarf. So you say this jar majroor becomes jar majroor zarf. What's the i'rab of this? Fi mahallin, not rafa, it's a zarf. So what's the state of the zarf? Nasb. So it's a fi mahallin nasb. Okay. So a recap of this is i'rab applies to words where you actually see the i'rab, like rajulun, rajulan, rajulin. And even words that don't, you can't see the i'rab, they never change, which are called mabni. Even then they will have an i'rab because isms always have an i'rab. The only difference is you don't call it marfu, you call it fi mahalli raf. Here you call it mansub, here you call it fi mahalli nasb. And here you call it fi mahalli jar. And even zarf phrases, if they come as a mubtada, if they come as a khabar, sorry, you say fi mahalli raf. Like our example before, al-ilmu indallah. And if it's a zarf and a jumla fi'liya, you will say what? Fi mahallin nasb.
But it can't be fi mahal jar.
A zarf, no, because the zarf doesn't come as a majrur position. Okay. Yeah. So that clarifies a question that we have arisen? It didn't arise, but I rose it and I answered it. Okay. Any questions?
I
No?
think we just need practice.
Yeah. Inshallah we'll do some practice. Inshallah the workbook there's a workbook with these notes. We just go through the notes now. And inshallah once the workbook is finished, we'll go over the whole workbook, which has loads of Quranic examples of how this is used. Okay? You follow?